Hi, and welcome to the Stroke of Genius podcast survivor experience. I'm your host, Aaron Amla. 13 years ago, I saw a brain aneurysm and stroke. I'm super excited to ask you a question. I ask myself, do you know what neuroplasticity is? It is, over the last 9 years of serving the stroke community, I believe it is the only real silver bullet. So many things that are out there that promise instant recovery, but it really is not. I mean, I've not seen one that works. But I have a host today. I have a guest today named Dr. Sean Cornfield, a very rare thing we have a neuroplasticity expert on our show, on our podcast. So I'm really excited to introduce you to him. So let me bring him in. Hold on.
Welcome to the Stroke of Genius Show, Survivor Experience. Now, here's your host, Aaron Avila.
Well, good morning, Sean, Dr. Sean.
Hi, Aaron. Thanks so much for having me, and very excited to be here and get to talk to you and your viewers as well.
You do. I mean, have you take your time for us and to be out there like this. I am extremely simple. So please take a minute to introduce yourself and introduce yourself to the community.
Sure. So I'm Dr. Sean Cornfield. I am a chiropractor that has postdoctorate training in neurological rehab. And with that, I'm basically the doctor here at Plasticity Centers of Colorado, where we basically use neuroplasticity and the concepts and principles of neuroplasticity really every day to deal with or to work with people that have had different types of brain injuries, anything from concussion, TBI, to stroke. And today we're going to be, honing in a little bit more on stroke rehab and what we can do to try to help with that, but also what everybody can do at home to try to help with that as well. So we see patients from all over the world, and with that, we've seen a lot of stroke survivors of varying degrees and varying points of their journey as well. But definitely excited to be here, and I appreciate everything that you're doing as well.
It's my pleasure, Doc. I'll tell you. Tell me a little bit, because I want to give a shout out to Neuroplasticity Center. What you got two locations you go, one in Colorado and one in Florida. Please tell me. I've seen you. I'm gonna see if I get a website. Mind your website because they're doing some cutting edge stuff out there. Here, by the way, no. Here is the new. No. Okay, well, bottom line is you guys are doing some cutting edge stuff out there on the neuroplasticity. I've seen the chair. I wish I was closer to you because I'd be there all the time, I'm sure. But what is you're doing neuroplasticity? That is your main focus as an organization, correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Basically taking the concept of neuroplasticity, knowing that the brain is able to adapt and able to compensate. And we're trying to use those concepts and principles to be able to stimulate the brain in ways that can try to improve function and thereby decrease symptoms as well. That's kind of the main approach.
Yeah, I think probably what I really wanted, and we got Jamie out there. Jamie from the United Kingdom was out there. Thank you for being on the Jamie. I appreciate it. He's on the UK, and let's start with basics. Let's start. What is neuroplasticity? What is it?
Yeah, it's a great question because neuroplasticity is a very large word. And like other large medical terms in the healthcare community, it is just a complex word that means something relatively pretty simple. So, neuroplasticity is basically the brain's ability to become or to be plastic, and plastic means the brain's ability to change. So, up until probably about 20 years ago, this wasn't an accepted concept in the field of neurology and healthcare. We thought that when you had an injury to the brain or an insult to the brain, that was it. It was just permanent, and that's how you're going to be. But a lot of the latest evidence and research shows, and now it's universally accepted, that the brain is able to adapt and change. And the easiest example that I use for patients that we see and people that I talk to is when you learn something new, whether it's from being in school or whether it's a hobby that you like or do throughout the day, your ability to learn something new and to be better at that topic, whatever it is, that is literally neuroplasticity happening, right? So, for example, take like math. When we're in fifth grade, let's say, and we're learning something in math, we don't know it at first. Then we learn it, we study it, and then we're able to remember and know how to use it. All of that is taking the concept of neuroplasticity and using it in practice. So we can see it in neurotypical, brains without injury. We can also see it when we're talking about trying to rehab following an injury or a stroke or something like that, where the brain loses the ability to do something that it once was able to do. And we can try to get other parts of the brain to now learn what was lost due to that injury.
Yeah, I would say, Doc, that probably the only, and there's a lot of gimmicks out there, lots of people that tend to take advantage of stroke survivors desperately wanting to rebuild a life after stroke. Injections, they'll show instantaneous recovery for stroke. The only real silver bullet that people I see, and I'm sure Doc John will agree with me, is neuroplasticity. It's proven. So it's scientifically proven to rebuild a life after rebuild the brain after stroke. And it allows years after the years per stroke. Our brains are plastic, right? And will rewire themselves. You can rewire it to work correctly.
Yeah, the concept is if there's a part of the brain, like let's just say this is the brain here, and there's a part right here that isn't working anymore, regardless of what it is. The concept is that the areas surrounding that part of the brain can start to learn and pick up the responsibility of the area that's damaged. Now, that's not something that necessarily happens overnight, and it's not something that just happens automatically without doing anything. But with targeted therapies, with specific understanding of what areas have been impacted, and doing things with a lot of repetition, that's really the main thing. Repetition is the language of the brain. So doing things with a lot of repetition, you can start to get those surrounding areas to pick up the slack for that damaged area. And it might not come back right away with 100% function or 100% ability, but you have to start somewhere. And once you have that little bit of foundation there, you can really start to build on top of that and see some amazing functionality regained in a lot of people.
Yeah, Doc, you say repetition. And neuroplasticity is one of those words up there. I think that's I told you in the green room, I was serving stroke community for 9 years. And it's one of those words I don't think I fully explained what it is. So this is a critical show and hope that we do more in the future because what you just described, the ability for the brain to be plastic. You can have a damaged spot, which is what we have as stroke survivors. And the parts of the brain around it will compensate or make up for the parts that are lost and rewire itself. But I think the key is repetition. And everyone hears emotions are key. If you could get emotional about what you're doing and repeat it over and over again, it will rebuild itself.
Yeah, that I mean, and that's definitely things that we see, in our office and with patients that we work with. I think there's some struggles that come with that, but I also think that you it's part of the process. So, for example, that repetition is hard for a lot of people, and I think that that's where you're not seeing everybody who is a stroke survivor regaining all that functionality or as much functionality as others are regaining. And I think it's because it's really tough to have that repetition day in and day out. So that's where committing to that, understanding that it's not going to happen overnight, and trying to do a little bit every single day, but doing it consistently, like brushing your teeth, right? Then that's the example that I use. We don't brush our teeth for 4 hours. We brush our teeth for a minute, right? Maybe 2 minutes. But doing that every single day, that's an adequate amount. And it's the same thing with trying to see improvements in functionality following a stroke. Is if you can commit to different parts or different therapies or different activities every single day. It doesn't have to be for hours, but if you can just commit to something consistently, that would be a huge first step.
Yeah, I think, Bobby, I mean, I'll be honest with you, Doc, when it comes to stroke survivor, government, in my point of view, it isn't that therapy doesn't work. I, as stroke survivor, I speak by myself, and I speak by many of this out there. It's a discipline of getting yourself to do it, but like you just said, the committed, repeated effort pays off in the long run. I'm something to remember that because I'm 13 years post stroke, and I haven't worked as hard as I should, as I could. But hearing you today say to me, if I repeatedly walk on a rail every morning, 7 days a week, and then keep doing that, eventually it will click. Neuroplasticity will take place, correct?
Absolutely. And it's not even that it takes a while for the neuroplasticity part to occur. It's just that it might take a while for the improvement to manifest, or for you to recognize the improvement. There's all these things that are still going on behind the scenes before we notice that improvement that first has to occur. So to me, it's very much like weightlifting. When you first lift weights, you don't see improvement right away, right? But there's so many things that are going on behind the scenes that are contributing to your ability to eventually notice and show improvement. And it's the same thing with rebuilding the brain. You might not see results, you might not see symptomatic improvement right away, but there's still a lot of things taking place behind the scenes that are positively contributing to that ability at some point in time.
That makes sense because, let's face it, we're a drive to McDonald's society. Want instant results. I know many stroke survivors out there that take advantage of financially, and they get an injection, they get whatever. It's supposed to instantaneously. There's no such thing out there that I know of. Do you know of anything that instantly heals stroke?
Do I know of anything that instantly heals stroke?
Yeah.
Nothing instant, and that's the downside to this stuff, right? Is that it doesn't happen overnight. Now, there's definitely things to be aware of and to do that will help accelerate things. So, for example, like healthy eating, eating like healthy fats like nuts and seeds and things of that nature. Avocados are a good one too. Coconut oil and coconuts are good. Um, what you put into your body is going to make a huge impact and difference into your body's environment and your ability for your brain to change. So that's definitely something to look at and take into account every day as you're eating. In terms of instant, though, it's that's the downside, right? And that's where you have to remember we're dealing with a part of the brain that's no longer operational. So we have to now take surrounding areas that have never done what that non-operational part's doing. So they've never done it before, and they have to learn how to do that part to compensate. So that just takes a decent amount of time. Now, some people have a faster trajectory rate than others, or a faster recovery rate, right? And that could have a lot to do with things like what you are eating, what your inflammatory levels look like, and things of that nature. So those are all things to take into account that will be another piece of the puzzle to help contribute to restoring functionality.
Yeah, that's really key. Like, I think it's the hope. This is real people. What Dr. Cornfield and I talk about neuroplasticity, remaining consistent and repeating the same thing over and over again. It trains the brain to it's like riding a bike. You use your plasticity when you learn to ride a bike. We're kids. Same thing. We have a couple questions come in from Kim, and she asked, and her husband had a stroke. She is a caregiver. She's a spouse. I don't know what CBT is.
Yeah, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Okay, I'll let if you could just read that. If you could read your question and answer, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. So Kim says, I've studied CBT, which is cognitive behavioral therapy. Do you feel that it can help? I've read that it can help people with TBI to relearn communication patterns. And yes, I do think that it can help. I think when we talk about brain rehab, there's always going to be different interventions that are pieces to the puzzle. So the brain is too complex to just do one thing and have that be the answer for everything, right? So CBT can be a great intervention to pair with other interventions to help specifically with higher level brain function. So that can be anything from memory to speech to behavior to impulse control. CBT is something that can really help with all of those things. And just like other therapies, like therapies that we might do here, it's not going to help with other types of symptoms. So, for example, things like balance or things like motor movement and motor control. CBT might not necessarily address those things, but that's where other interventions can help. But I think CBT, when talking about relearning communication patterns and things of that nature, that can be a great intervention for that specific function that you're trying to restore.
Yeah, I know Kim's husband had a stroke, and he has aphasia, which I think is one of the coolest things that stroke does to people. Is aphasia. It takes the ability to speak. I just had that. I think I'm a father, I get drunk all the time, but I can communicate. I feel there are many times I get very emotional about people that their speech is taken away. They can never talk like you and I right now. But there's another question Kevin asked. Basically, she's asking, how important is it to stay hydrated? Does water play a big role in our well-being in life?
Yeah, it definitely does. I mean, when you look at water, we're mainly made up of water. So, drinking a lot of water definitely helps. I think the average person doesn't drink anywhere near enough, that they're supposed to every day. And, that can vary by climate too. So like we're in Denver, we have a very dry climate. I should me and everyone else here should probably be drinking, even more than the typical person's recommended. So I think, again, going back to what I was saying before, like it's certainly a piece to the puzzle, right? So drinking water, is it going to solve everything? No, but is it going to help and get a better environment for the brain and for the rest of your body? Yes, it certainly will. And it's also very easy to do, right? To drink water, it's something that typically is very low cost. It's accessible everywhere. So it's a very straightforward thing that you can do that can, be a piece to the puzzle without having to commit a lot of time and resources and things of that nature as well.
Yeah, I've heard you say several times, piece of the puzzle. That I want to make sure I'm understanding, and I know I guess my audience understanding that one therapy by itself or drinking water mean unaffected, but you drink water with nutrition, with your therapy, you can have a great result.
Yeah. Yep, I agree. So that's basically what I'm saying is when I talk about a piece to the puzzle, if the puzzle is restoring brain function or improving brain function or increasing quality of life, it's very rare that one thing is going to be the answer, right? So a piece to the puzzle is if you do some cognitive behavioral therapy, for example, if you drink some water, for example, if you eat a healthy diet, those are all things that you add to the puzzle that eventually will add up, to create the full picture. And in this analogy, that would be to try to restore brain function. So there's not one thing that's going to be the 100% answer to everything, but instead it's one step in the right direction is another way to put it as well.
Oh, I love what you're saying. I think we lose sight of that because we're all looking for that one thing. I know many surgeries are stem cell, injection in the neck. They're all looking for that one thing that they can cure them. That really is unrealistic. What is realistic is, like you said, is a combination of putting all the pieces, the parts that work together, and together they form one big healing journey, and their healing thing in the search of ours. So I think it's really, really great advice to understand. Survivors taught one thing, it's many things, but stay consistent, do it every day, and you will see change. And Doc, what can we do at home to turn neuroplastic? Give me some just some recommendations if you would.
Yeah, I'll give you some like relatively simple things to do, depending on what areas are impacted, and what symptoms people are experiencing as well. So just to start, if you take the understanding that the brain, basically the brain's job is to process sensory information. So if you understand that concept, then you can almost look at anything as a therapy. So for example, when you have if you're walking barefoot on the grass and your foot feels the grass, that sends signals up to your brain that will then allow your brain to process that sensory information and then allow your brain to have an output from that. Okay, so let's just take an example. Let's take somebody who maybe has lost sensation in their feet or their foot, or maybe can't feel their foot as well. So maybe they can walk a little bit, but it's very difficult because they can't have that sensation there. You can have somebody walk around in the backyard barefoot, or if maybe they're in a wheelchair, you can have their feet kind of run along the grass as you push them in the wheelchair. That grass is going to stimulate receptors in the foot that are going to send sensory signals up to the brain. So you do things like that every day, and you can start to get consistent sensory input being sent to the brain That could be one thing that you do, right? If you have like sensory issues, you can use that same concept and apply it to like your arm or your hand, right? So maybe you run something like rough or something with texture along your hand. Okay, so that can be like that can be like squeezing a stress ball every day, right? As you watch TV or something like that. So this texture and this pressure from squeezing sends sensory information up to the brain. You can also have like something like this where it's like a rubber silicone thing, and you can kind of just feel this, as you're watching TV or as you're doing something else. And that texture again is getting sensory signals sent to the brain. So that's a very low cost type of thing to do. There's also an app that I like out there for people that are having cognitive issues. It's called Peak Brain Training. It's PEAK. And basically you can download an account, and from there you get access to all these different games that help with problem solving, memory, mental agility, so like processing speed, and then there's also a language one as well. So those are all ones where you would take an introductory test when you first download the app, so that way they can see where you're at, and then the games are going to be matched to your skill level. And as you improve in the games will get harder and will make it more challenging for you too. So those are like two kind of relatively low cost things to do. Another thing that I really like is there's a company called Zynex, and here I actually have one of their stress balls.
Oh yeah.
Zynex Medical. They sell, and you can get this through most insurances, which is nice. But you need a doctor order to get it. But you can go to a doctor or call Zynex and see if there's a doctor near you that works with them. But they sell these gloves and these socks that send electrical stimulation throughout the glove and throughout the sock. So something simple that you can do is maybe while you're doing your other therapy, you can be wearing the socks, which will increase sensory stimulation up to the brain. So maybe, for example, you're doing walking exercises, but as you're doing the walking exercises, you're using the electrical socks as well to try to get increased sensory input to the brain. And you can do that, the same thing with your hands as well if your hand is involved.
I'm so glad you said that, because I don't think I've ever really looked at the way you're finding neuroplasticity. I remember watching a therapist years ago use a hairbrush, but the one that had the stiff tines on it.
Yeah.
And he rubbed his arms with it. He said it helped your neuroplasticity. Now I understand why. It was the texture. It was the touch of the skin.
Yeah.
Made that happen. That's pretty amazing. But I see that. Let's say I'm fit on the left side, and so I could see where I could take a piece of something, take a brush, a comb like that, whatever, and just start rubbing my hands with this. So, what you're saying, if I understand you correct, just taking our non-affected hand, touching our affected side, actually can spur fire neuroplasticity, if I'm understanding you correctly.
Yeah, that's exactly right. And just to kind of expand on that, because we recommend like brushes and toothbrushes, electric toothbrushes as well, because it's a little bit stronger. But what you can do is let's just say this hand is affected, right? A lot of people want to have better motor control. Now, in order to have better motor control, you first need to have good sensory stimulation or good sensory understanding. And the reason why is because in order to better regulate muscles, your brain first needs to know where your arm is in relation to the rest of your body. And it does that through sensory information from the arm. So you can take an electric toothbrush, for example, or like an electric massager from Amazon, and you can take that and just run it along your affected side. And you're not doing it for a massage, although it might feel good.
Yeah.
but you're doing it because there are specific receptors in your skin that respond to vibration. So when they feel the vibration, they get stimulated and it sends signals up to the brain. Now, this pathway here is not like damaged or not impacted. It's the brain area that is. So these sensory signals are still getting there. The brain might at first not have the ability to perceive it or not perceive it as well. But if you constantly bombard it with that, it will say, wow, this keeps happening. It must be important. I need to figure out how to be able to perceive this. And that's where you can start to get these areas to improve or to rewire, basically.
Wow, and that, I know it sounds silly, but that really is neuroplasticity. That's how we use it to recover or rebuild our life at stroke, is use those tools. And again, people, I want you to realize some doctors said it when we first started, it's not instant. This takes time,
Yeah.
repetition. I heard someone that's I know that everybody asks how many times I need to do something to make a difference in my brain. And I heard there was somebody said 700. There was a study done, I forget who it was. But the bottom line is don't stop. Just keep the same thing over and over again, and it'll click. And it'll fire someday.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I think an important thing to remember is that everybody has things that they want to work on every day, right? Whether it's trying to improve from a stroke, whether it's I am overweight, whether it's I have social anxiety, like all of these things, everybody's trying to improve on things. For stroke survivors, it happens to be specifically improving from a stroke. But everybody has things to work on. So what I would just kind of frame it in my mind is that you designate a set number of time throughout the day that you're going to try to work on yourself, right? And you do that every single day, just like everyone else should be doing that every single day too, right? Like everybody should try to go to the gym every day or get physical activity, things like that. So you kind of frame it like that. And all of a sudden in what I've been told from other patients is it's not such a burden anymore, or maybe a lighter burden, knowing that it's not something you have to do, that it's something that you want to do consistently every day, and just build it into your routine where maybe it's an hour or two every day. And then the rest of the day you go and have fun and try to have, a good time doing things that you like, hobbies or whatever it may be. It doesn't always have to be work, but just doing a little bit each day goes a long way.
Yeah, it's funny, I never thought about that. Learn behavior. They say it takes 21 days to learn something new, but that is neuroplasticity, your ability to discipline yourself, do therapy every day is neuroplasticity itself. But, Doc, we're over time, and I really appreciate being here. I told you it might go by quick. and I'm hoping you can come on again. Thank you very much. I want to now say someone, what's the best way to get all these? Say someone to come visit your centers. So, but say they're like that in Florida, Colorado. How do they get? What is the name of your company? And I'll make sure I put a link in the series. But what's the best way to help you?
Yeah, so best way is to just visit our website. It's plasticitycenters.com. And from there, there's like a bunch of information on there about what we do and different options that we have. But we have a designated patient care specialist that you can talk to. And we also do consults that you can book through the website as well. So that's kind of the best way to start. And then from there, if it's something where you're seeking out treatment, we can definitely talk about that. If it's something where you're looking for, recommendations or things of that nature, I'll give Aaron my email. That way people can email me directly if they're looking more for just, certain recommendations for their area.
Yeah, just, people, I will put all links on. Sean to give me the links. I'll put them in the True Self video. But Sean, I appreciate being here. Can't thank you enough. Again, I'm really hoping that we can get together. I love to see that chair work someday. So if you pull some strings, they got to show people that it's like a gyroscope. I mean, it goes all different directions, and I'm assuming it's affecting the navicular or what's the word?
Vestibular.
Vestibular.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I encourage everybody to be out there. Contact the Plasticity Brain Center. John has been nice enough to give us a direct email. Again, I'll put that in the description of the video. But thank you again, Doc. I can't thank you enough for being here for us. Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, absolutely. It's an honor to be here. I appreciate what you're doing as well. And thank you for everything that you're doing, showing support for the community here. And I'm sure everyone else appreciates it too.
My pleasure. Okay, have a good day yourself. Thank you too.
All right. Take care.
Bye.